starting Niddah. We're not
Yeah, Niddah, Aleph Gimel.
Aleph Gimel. Reb Eliezer says there are four women whose time suffice for them: a virgin, a pregnant woman, a nursing woman, and an old woman. Reb Yeshua said, "I heard this law only with regard to a virgin. However, the law is like Reb Eliezer. What is meant by a virgin? Any girl has never discharged blood in her life, even if she is married. Regarding a pregnant woman, her time suffices for only from when her fetus becomes noticeable. Regarding a nursing woman, the time suffices for her until she weans her child. If she gave her child to a wet nurse or she weaned him or died, the man said she conveys tumah retroactively for 24 hours, but they can come and say her time suffices for her. What is meant by an old woman? Any woman for whom 3 periods have passed near her old age. If Eliezer says any woman for whom 3 periods have passed, her time suffices for her. If Yossi says a pregnant woman and a nursing woman for whom 3 periods have passed, their time suffices for them.
Okay. So what we're talking about is those four categories of women who, unlike other women where we go backwards to take a look at either 24 hours or since their last Badika, these women are presumed not to be bleeding because they're pregnant, nursing, too young, too old. That's your rule. Okay, so we've just been categorizing who we're talking about. Amru Dayashata, and what do we mean by the fact that that Dayashata, that it's enough to just look at the time from now and onwards, and we don't go backwards to look at what else she's touched and made tameh. Bariya Rishona, that's only talking about the first time. Okay. Aval b'shniya metamames le'es, but after that, she's now considered. So classic would be the young girl who's never had a period before. Now that she's had her first period, okay, now we've got to start suspecting that every month she's going to be having a period, and therefore she has to suspect that she's going to have that if she comes on, then you got to go back 24 hours if she hasn't done a badika. Okay. However, if the first one happened because of some sort of trauma, basically, then you don't say that doesn't actually affect her chazaka. So for example, if she had a fall and bled and we said, okay, that could be just because of the trauma, therefore she retains her status as not being one who's expected to bleed.
Right.
Okay, afashniya dayashata. Then even if she bleeds a second time, we'll still say dayashata and only go forward, not go backward. Okay. Mishna Zayin, Afal Pisha Amru Dayashata Tzricha Lios Bodekes. So even though we do say that she has we're only going to check her going forward, she nonetheless has to check Chutz min Niddah, except for a Niddah who's so all these girls who are any woman who is handling taros should nonetheless be checking in case something happens. Chutz min Niddah, except for a woman who's already a Niddah. There's no point in her checking because we know that she's tameh. So so what Chazal was saying, that people who are handling taros, who have to be careful about tumah and tara, should be checking every morning and evening. Okay, no point for a niddah. V'yahashebas al dam tohar, and a woman who is in her her 33 or 66 days post childbirth. So post childbirth, for a boy, it's 7 days of tumah and then 33 days of tara. And even if she bleeds, she's tahor. Okay, and for a girl, you double those quantities. It's 14 days of tumah and 66 days of tara. Okay. Right. So, okay. So if she's in that, by the way, is not the halacha that we follow today. We just machmir on everything. So we don't observe the 33 days or the 66 days. Nowadays, we've got a much more stringent minhag. But in the times when this was when people were following the exact the letter of the law, then there's no point in checking during those 33 or 66 days because even if she does bleed, then she's still tahor. Okay. And this woman who has got the chazaka of not bleeding, Nonetheless, before she has relations with her husband, she should also check Chutz miyasheves al dam tohar, except for the woman who is in her pure period, the 33 or 66 days post birth. Ubasula shedameha toharim, and a young girl who's never had relations before, and we presume that the blood that comes out of her is from the breaking of her hymen. Upa'amayim tzricha lios bodekes. Twice she has to check bashachris, bein hashmashos, ubein hashmashos. So she checks morning and evening, in order to keep making stations when we can say, okay, she was tahor, and therefore we eliminate the possibility of things becoming tamei on account of her. Ubashashi or various lishamesh espesa, and also when she's preparing to have relations with her husband. Then she should also check before to make sure that she is tahor. Yiserath alehen kohanos, and furthermore, female wives and daughters of kohanim who are able to eat truma also need to check b'shah shehein ochlin b'truma. So they should also check themselves before they eat truma, just to make sure, because it's another stringency. If you eat truma while you're tamei, that's not good. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, af b'shas avara san milechol b'truma. He says even Rabbi Yehuda has an extra stringency, that they should also check themselves after they've finished eating the truma to see what the status is of the leftovers. Okay, although the halakha does not follow Rabbi Yehuda, they say, come on. Okay, Perek base. Kol hayad marba livdok benashim meshubachas. They say the more that women check themselves, the better. It's more praiseworthy that they keep checking themselves, so that they can be really sure when they're on and when they're not. U'ba'anashim tikat tzeit, and men, however, checking themselves to see if they've had any emissions, that's highly unrecommended, because just by touching the member, they start arousing themselves, and that's not going to lead to a good place. So just leave it alone. Hachareshes v'hashota v'suma v'shenitra fadata. So a woman who is a deaf mute, or an imbecile, or if she's blind, or if she's like lost. I don't know what the difference is between nitra fadata, or for what the difference is with the shota. I suppose is more of a permanent condition, but she's unwell, and she's unable to inspect herself. If there are other women who are of sound mind, who are able to help them, maskinos osan. So their helpers can inspect them. So we're talking about women here who are from Kohen families, and they're allowed to eat truma, so they can get some other another woman who is of sound mind to inspect them, so to enable them to eat truma. Derech benos Yisrael misham shos b'shnei idim. So the minhag of righteous women is that they should before they have relations with their husbands, they should do so with two inspections, basically, echad lo echad la, one for him and one for her, so that they can be sure if anything comes out, they'll see it on the cloth. Hatznuos maskinos lehen shlishi letzaken es habayis, and an even higher level of would be for her to have a third one to check also before they have relations. So the two that they were talking about afterwards is that after having relations, they should both check themselves to see if there's any blood, and even better than that is if the woman also checks herself beforehand. Okay, now I'm going to have a big challenge. What I'm going to put in the cover picture for today's shiur, but anyway.
Okay.
All right. I think I'm going to have a lot of these, a lot of pictures of children going dancing through fields of flowers or something,
Both. The following, this is Ches base. The following Belkari requires tefillah. If one saw a dribbling fluid or an opaque fluid at the beginning, he is tahor. In the middle or at the end, he is tameh. From the beginning to the end, he is tahor. If it was white and stringy, he is tameh. And Reb Yossi says, while white is like opaque. If one discharged thick drops from the member, he is a tameh. These are the words of Reb Eliezer Chizma. If one had bad thoughts at night and rose and found his flesh warm, he is tameh. A woman who emits semen on the third day is tahor. These are the words of Reb Eliezer ben Azariah. Reb Yishmael says sometimes it is 4 periods, sometimes 5, and women 6. Reb Akiva says it is always 5 periods. If a Gentile woman emitted the semen of a Jew, he is tameh. It is tameh. If a Jewish daughter emitted the semen of a Gentile, it's tahor. If a woman had intercourse and she went down and immersed herself and she had not cleaned her house, she is as if she had not immersed herself. A Baal Kari immersed himself and did not pass water becomes tameh when he does pass water. If Yossi says in the case of a sick wind or an old man, he becomes tameh. But in the case of a young and healthy person, he is tahor.
Okay.
Okay.
Taurus. Vav Ches.
Okay. Vav Ket. A basilica is a private domain for the Shabbos, but a public domain for Tumah. Rabbi Yehuda says even if he stands at the entrance and sees those who enter and those who leave at the other entrance, it is a private domain for this and for that. But if not, it is a private domain for the Sabbath and a public domain for Tumah. Paron is a private domain for the Sabbath and a public domain for Tumah. And similarly, the sides of the Paron. Emmaus says the sides of a private domain for this and for that. The storefront bench area is a private domain for the Sabbath and a public for the Tumah. A courtyard which the public enters on one side and exit on the other side is a private domain in regard to the laws of Sabbath, but a public domain in regard to the laws of Tumah.
That's it.
Okay. And one more.
No.
That
No.
was it.
That was it. End of the parak, and that's it.
I finished. I tell you. Yeah.
You finished Mishnah Yod, right?
I finished your test. Vav test.
Oh, you didn't do Yod yet. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay.
Zion Aleph. A potter who put down his pots and went down to drink, the inner ones are tahor, while the outer ones are tameh. Said Rabbi Yossi, when are these things said? We're on the loose, but when they are bundled, everything is tahor. If one trusts his key to an aretz, the house is tahor. But
hold on. No.
Skip the page. Wait.
You're on Zion Aleph. Okay.
Right, Zion Aleph.
Okay, no. That's for tomorrow. Yeah.
Really? Are you sure? All right.
Yeah.
I started on kids. All right. Okay. So we're finished now. Tomorrow is Zion Aleph. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So, Ohalos.
Okay.
Mishnah Vav.
Yud Ket Vav. Someone who walks through a best process on stones that he does not cause to move on a person or an animal that are very strong is tahor. However, someone who walks through a base process on stones that he causes to move on a person or an animal that are not strong is tameh. Someone who walks in the land of the nations is on mountains or rocks is tameh, and the sea or in silt is tahor. What is silt? Any place to which the sea rises in its fury. Someone who purchases a field in Syria near the land of Israel, if the field can be entered remaining tahor, it is tahor and obligated in mafros and shavias. If he cannot enter the field while remaining tahor, the field is tameh and he is obligated in mafros and shavias. Dwellings of idolaters are tameh. How long must he have remained in the dwellings to require a search? 40 days. The dwelling is tameh even if there is no woman with him. If there is a slave or a woman watching over him, a search is not required. What do they search? The deep sewers and the putrid waters. Red Shammai says even garbage heaps and soft earth. Beis Hillel says any place that a pig or weasel can reach does not require searching.
Okay, that's it. So we're going to finish this tomorrow and start Negayim.
Negayim?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I'm just going to write a piece of paper Negayim. So I don't forget. Negayim. Okay. Kulin. Okay, this is Yud Aleph base. How many are considered many? Beis Shammai says 2 sheep, as it is stated. A man will sustain a calf and 2 sheep. Beis Hillel says 5, as it is stated. 5 prepared sheep. And Rav Dosa ben Harkin says 5 sheep each of which is shorn of a mana and a half, are subject to the law of the first of the fleece. But the common say 5 sheep that are shorn of any amount. How much must we give him? The weight of 5 selim in hides in Judea, which are equivalent to 10 selim in Galilee, bleached but not dirty, enough to make a small garment out of it. As it is stated, you shall give to him there that there should be enough for it in a gift. If he did not manage to give it to him and he died it, he's exempt. If he bleached it but did not dye it, he's obligated. If one buys the fleece of a Gentile sheep, he's exempt from the first of the fleece. If one buys the fleece of another sheep, if the seller of left over some, the seller is obligated. But if he did not leave anything over, the buyer is obligated. If he had 2 kinds, dark ones and white ones, and he sold them the dark ones, but not the white ones, the males, but not the females, this one would give for himself, and that one was give for himself. Okay. Second. Yud Beis Aleph, the mitzvah of sending away from the nest applies both to the land and outside the land, when the temple exists and when the temple does not exist, to unconsecrated birds, but not to consecrated ones. The stringency of the mitzvah of covering the blood over the mitzvah of sending away from the nest is that of the mitzvah of covering the blood applies to both beast and fowl, whether it's at one's disposal or not at one's disposal. Whereas the mitzvah of sending away from the nest applies only to fowl, and it applies only to those not at one's disposal, while those are not at one's disposal. Examples are geese and chickens that nested in the orchard, but if they nested in the house, and similarly Herodian doves, they're exempt from sending them away. One is exempt from sending away a non-kosher bird. If a non-kosher bird sits on the eggs of a kosher bird, or if a kosher bird sits on the eggs of a non-kosher bird, one is exempt from sending it away. Male partridge, Elias rules that one is obligated to send it away, but the page is exempt.
Okay.
And I think, let me see. Yeah, no, we'll finish that tomorrow.
Finish that tomorrow, and on Tuesday we'll do Bechoros.
Tomorrow? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Sota.
Here we go. Okay, Sota. Vav Hey. I'm sorry, Zion Hey. In what manner were the blessings and the curses recited? As soon as Israel crossed the Jordan, they came to Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal, and that are in the vicinity of Samaria and Shechem, near Elon Moriah, as it said, and they are not across the Jordan. And over there it states, and Abram passed through the land until the place of Shechem and Elon Moriah. As there's a Moray, there is a Shechem. As Elon Moray here is Shechem. 6 tribes ascended to the top of Mount Gerizim, and 6 ascended to the top of Mount Abel. While the Kohanim, the Levi, and the ark stood in between. The Kohanim surrounded the ark, the Levium surrounded the Kohanim, and all of Israel were on this side and that. As it said, and all of Israel with its elders, its officers, and its judges stood on this side and on that side of the ark. They turned their faces toward Mount and began with the blessing. Blessed is the man who does not make a graven or molten image. And these and those responded, Amen. Then they turned their faces toward Mount Abel and began with the curse. Cursed is the man who makes a graven or molten image. And they responded, Amen. They continued in this manner until they completed all the blessings and curses. Afterwards, they brought the stones. They built an altar, plastered it with lime, inscribed upon it all the words of the Torah in 70 languages, as it is said, explain it well. And they took the thrones and came and spent the night in their place. In what manner were the blessings of the Kohen pronounced? In the provinces, they pronounced it in 3 blessings. But in the temple is 1 blessing. In the temple, you pronounce the name as is written, but in the provinces, with Kodnomen. I gotta say that. Where is that? Okay.
Okay, there's a fancy something that's a nickname, as a kinoi.
Yeah. Okay. In the provinces, the Kohanim raised their hands to show the height, but in the temple above their heads, except that the Kohen Gadol who did not raise his hands above the tzitz. Elias ben Huda says, even the Kohen Gadol raised his hands above the tzitz, as it said, and Aaron raised his hands for the people, and he blessed them. In what manner were the blessings of the Kohen Gadol cited? The attendant of the synagogue takes the Torah scroll and gives it to the head of the synagogue. The head of the synagogue gives it to the deputy, Kohen Gadol, and the deputy gives it to the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol stands up and accepts the scroll and reads while standing. He reads from the passage that begins after the death, and the passage that begins but on the 10th. Then he rolls up the Torah scroll, puts it in his bosom, and says, there is more than I have read to you written here, and he recites by heart from the book of Numbers beginning on the 10th. Then he recites all the benedictions for the Torah, for the sacrificial service, for the thanksgiving, for the forgiveness of sin, for the temple, for Israel, and for the Kohanim, and for the rest of the prayer. Okay. And have you been to Mishna, where the mountains are over there, the two mountains?
I haven't.
I've been there. I don't understand. I just can never picture how they could stand on both sides and hear each other and the whole thing. It's a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised you never went there. That's the name of the what do you call it? The Sudoku, right? They have the whole.
Yeah, just never had a calling to go there.
Uh, for these transgressions, women die during the childbirth because they're not careful regarding the laws of Niddah, color, and kindling the Sabbath light. A man must say three things in his home on the eve of the Sabbath just before dark: have you tied and prepare the Arab and kindle the Sabbath light. If there is doubt whether it's dark or not dark, we may not tie indefinitely untied produce. Nor may we immerse vessels, nor may we kindle the lights, nor we demand tithe to my, make an Arab and insulate hot food. A double stove that was heated with straw with stubble, we may place a cooked food upon it as it was heated. The marker with wood, we may not place cooked food upon it. And also he has wept away the coals until they put away ashes over them. And Shammai says hot water, but not cooked food. Beis Hillel says both hot water and cooked food. But Shammai says we may remove the food but not replace it. But Beis Hillel says we may even replace it.
Okay.
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 So we're starting the Gaim tomorrow, and then after that we're starting Bakoros. Okay.
Okay. Have a wonderful day.
Tomorrow should be okay. I think we won't have Rosh Chodesh, so I don't think we'll manage to dive in afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, usually. Okay.
Thank you.